It was raining the night I met her. Not the gentle kind of rain that softens a city's edges, but the hard, relentless downpour that turns neon into liquid color and streets into mirrors. I had just locked up my repair shop, an aging electronics storefront wedged between a shuttered bookstore and a 24-hour noodle bar, when I saw her standing beneath the broken streetlight across the road. She wasn't holding an umbrella. She wasn't moving.
She was just there.
In my neighborhood, people didn't stand still unless they were waiting for something or someone. And the way she stood, perfectly upright, shoulders relaxed, eyes fixed ahead, didn't feel like waiting. It felt like observing. I hesitated before crossing the street. Curiosity has always been my weakness. It's what drove me to take apart my first radio at 7 years old, to dismantle broken drones for spare processors, to build a short-range signal amplifier in my apartment just to see if I could intercept something unusual. I didn't know then how much that amplifier would matter. "Are you lost?" I called over the rain. She turned her head toward me. Even now, years later, I struggle to describe her face. Not because it was grotesque or impossibly strange. It wasn't. She looked human. Almost perfectly so. Dark hair clung to her cheeks in the rain. Her skin was pale, almost luminescent beneath the streetlight. Her eyes were large, reflective, as if catching more light than they should. "I am searching," she said. Her voice was smooth, measured. The cadence was slightly off, as if she had practiced each syllable before speaking. "For what?" I asked. "You." I laughed before I could stop myself. "That's not a line I hear often." "It is not a line," she replied. "It is a designation." The rain intensified, drumming against parked cars and rooftops. I studied her more closely. Her clothes were simple, a gray coat, black trousers, but they fit too perfectly, like they had been designed from measurements taken with microscopic precision. "I think you've got the wrong guy," I said. She shook her head slowly.
"No."
"You are Daniel Reyes, electronics specialist, amateur radio enthusiast. You constructed a signal amplifier 2 months ago and transmitted an unsanctioned frequency burst at 2:17 local time." The air seemed to thin. "How do you know that?" I demanded. "Because we received it." The rain faded into background noise. My mind replayed that night 2 months ago. I had been experimenting, pushing the amplifier beyond legal parameters, broadcasting a tight pulse of encrypted data into the upper atmosphere. Nothing malicious. Just a test. A question flung into the dark. "Anyone out there?" "You're joking," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "I do not joke often," she replied. "It complicates communication." Lightning flashed overhead. For a split second, her pupils contracted vertically, like a cat's. My breath caught. "You're not from here," I whispered. "No," she said. "I am not." The invitation. We stood there in the rain for another minute, neither of us moving. "Okay," I said finally, adrenaline sharpening my thoughts. "Let's say I believe you. Let's say you're what? An alien." "Yes." "And you tracked me down because I sent out a signal?" "Yes." "That's terrifying." She tilted her head. "It was not intended to induce fear." "Well, it did." She stepped closer. Not threateningly, just closer. "I apologize," she said. "Fear is a common human response to uncertainty. I am attempting to reduce it. You could start by explaining what you want." "I wish to invite you to my home." That stopped me. "I don't even know your name." "My designation is Lyra." "Lyra," I repeated. "And your home is where exactly?" "Not far." "On Earth?" "Yes." That answer unsettled me more than if she had pointed to the sky. "You're telling me there are aliens living here?" "On Earth?" "Yes," she said calmly. "A small contingent. Observers. And you want to take me there? Yes. Why? Because you reached out, she said simply. You asked if anyone was listening. We are. The rain began to ease, tapering to a mist. The city around us continued as normal, cars passing, distant sirens, laughter from the noodle bar. No one else seemed to notice that my entire understanding of reality had just shifted. Why me? I asked again. Because you were not broadcasting for power or conquest, Lyra said. You were broadcasting for contact. And that's rare? Yes. I studied her face for deception. Found none. If this is some kind of prank, it's incredibly elaborate. It is not a prank. I hesitated. Every survival instinct screamed at me to walk away. To go home, lock the door, pretend none of this had happened. But curiosity won. It always does. Fine, I said. Take me to your home. Middle, the house on Mercer Street. We didn't travel by spacecraft or hidden portal. We walked 3 blocks down, then left, then right into a quieter residential stretch lined with narrow townhouses. I had passed this street dozens of times and never noticed anything unusual. Lyra stopped in front of a modest brick house with dark windows. This is ours, she said. Ours, I repeated. She nodded. A flicker of unease tightened my chest. She approached the door. It slid open silently. Not swung. Slid. I froze at the doorway. The interior was dimly lit, but not by conventional bulbs. The light seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, soft and ambient. The air smelled faintly metallic, like ozone after a storm. And inside the living room stood at least a dozen women. They were all like her. Similar height, similar build, dark hair, pale skin, luminous eyes. All staring at me. I couldn't move. They are my kind, Lyra said gently from beside me. Do not be alarmed. That's easy for you to say, I muttered. One of the women stepped forward. Her movements were fluid, precise. Subject Daniel Reyes, she said. Signal origin confirmed. Please don't call me subject, I said weakly. She paused. Understood. Daniel. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. How long have you been here? I asked. 8 of your years, the woman replied. Watching us. Yes. For what? Assessment. Of what? Compatibility. That word hung in the air. With what? I demanded. Lyra answered this time. With us. The truth of their arrival. They led me into the main room. The furniture looked human but subtly wrong. Edges too smooth, surfaces too seamless. We are not invaders, Lyra said as I sat stiffly on a couch that seemed to adjust to my weight instantly. We are refugees. From where? Our star system was destabilized by stellar collapse. We evacuated centuries ago. Centuries? I echoed. Our lifespans exceed yours. Of course they did. We have traveled across multiple galaxies, another woman said, seeking a world capable of sustaining biological and cultural integration. And you chose Earth. It meets environmental parameters, Lyra said. But compatibility is not merely atmospheric. It is psychological. You're studying us to see if we're friendly enough to live with. Yes. And the signal I sent, it indicated a human willing to reach beyond isolation. That is promising. I exhaled slowly. So, what now? We wish to understand you, Lyra said. Individually. And collectively. And if we're not compatible? A flicker passed between them. Silent communication. We will leave, Lyra said. I looked around the room again. A dozen identical, alien women observing me with clinical curiosity. Why reveal yourselves at all? I asked. Because secrecy limits data, the first woman said. Direct interaction is more accurate. You could have chosen a government official, a scientist.
We did, Lyra said.
Results were unsatisfactory. That didn't surprise me. So you picked a guy who fixes broken tablets and builds illegal radios. You are adaptable, she said. You are curious. And you are not in a position of power. Wow, I muttered, flattered. Her lips curved slightly. It was not intended as insult. Learning each other. I didn't go home that night. Or the next. Over the following weeks, I became a regular presence in the house on Mercer Street. The others, who called themselves the Aaron, rotated interactions with me, asking questions about human culture, conflict, love, art, ambition. They absorbed information at astonishing speed. But it wasn't purely analytical. They felt things.
Subtly.
Differently. But undeniably. One evening, while the others were in another room, Lyra and I stood by a window overlooking the quiet street. Why do you stay with them? I asked. We are bonded, she said. Genetically and cognitively. A hive mind?
No.
Individual, but linked. Do you ever want to be alone? She considered this. I am alone with you now. That's not what I meant. She studied my face. You value isolation as identity reinforcement, she said. We value connection. And what do you value personally? I pressed. She hesitated. I value this, she said finally. This. Unpredictability. Something shifted between us then. Not just observer and subject. Not just alien and human. But something closer. The threat. The illusion of quiet coexistence shattered 3 months after our first meeting. Black vehicles lined Mercer Street one morning. Men in tactical gear surrounded the house. Government. Somehow, they had discovered anomalous energy readings. Or intercepted a transmission. I arrived just as armed agents breached the front door. Lyra! I shouted, running forward. A soldier shoved me back. Federal investigation. Step away. You don't understand. I yelled. Inside, chaos erupted, not screams, but flashes of blue-white light. The Aaron weren't defenseless. They moved with inhuman precision, disarming agents without lethal force. Weapons clattered to the floor.
But there were too many.
A sharp crack split the air. One of the Aaron collapsed. Time seemed to fracture. Lyra turned toward the fallen woman, something like anguish flashing across her face. That was the first time I saw pure emotion from her. Stop. I screamed at the agents. They're not hostile. No one listened. The situation spiraled. And then something happened that changed everything. Lyra reached for my hand. Daniel, she said, voice trembling for the first time. We must leave.
How?
She looked up. The sky rippled. A distortion like heat haze spread across the clouds. A massive, cloaked structure shimmered into visibility above the city. Their ship. Panic erupted below. In seconds, beams of light descended, enveloping the house. I felt weightlessness. The street vanished. Ending. A choice between worlds. When my vision cleared, I was no longer on Earth. We stood inside a vast chamber of smooth, iridescent material. The walls pulsed faintly with internal light. Through a curved viewport, I saw Earth below, blue, fragile, receding. You took me with you, I whispered. Yes, Lyra said.
Why?
Because you are part of our assessment. And if I fail?
You will not, she said.
Below us, military jets scrambled uselessly against the ascending vessel. You're leaving, I said. All of you. Yes. Because of us. Because of fear, she corrected. It outweighs readiness. I felt a hollow ache in my chest. I didn't ask to leave Earth. I know. Then send me back. She stiffened. You would choose them? After what they did?
They're my species, I said. Flawed.
Violent. Curious. But mine. Silence stretched between us. You are conflicted, she observed. So are you. She stepped closer. We could offer you longevity, knowledge beyond your sciences, a place among us. And what would I be? I asked. An ambassador? A pet project? You would be Daniel, she said softly. I laughed bitterly. That's not enough. Earth continued to shrink in the viewport. You asked if we were compatible, I said. Maybe we are. But not like this. Not through fear. What do you propose? She asked. Give us time. Reveal yourselves slowly. Let humanity choose. And if they choose rejection, then at least it's honest. She studied me the way she had that first night in the rain. Do you regret meeting my kind? She asked. I thought of the doorway. The moment I froze at the sight of a dozen alien women watching me. Of weeks spent learning their language, their perspectives. Of the fallen Aaron on Mercer Street. No, I said. It was the most important night of my life. She reached out, touching my cheek with cool fingers. You have altered our trajectory, she said. And you've altered mine. The ship hummed around us. Finally, she nodded. We will return you, she said. But we will not disappear. Good. A faint smile touched her lips. You will be our intermediary. I blinked. You trust me with that? Yes. A beam of light enveloped me again. As Earth rushed up to meet me, I saw the alien vessel shift, no longer hidden, but visible in the dawn sky for all to see. Not attacking, not fleeing, waiting. I landed gently in an empty field outside the city. Within hours, the world would change. Governments would panic. News networks would explode. The age-old question, are we alone, would finally have an answer. And I would stand between two worlds. That night in the rain, I had sent a signal into the dark. I didn't know who would answer. I didn't know it would lead me to a house full of alien women. I didn't know it would force me to choose between species. But I knew this. The night I met her kind was the night humanity's isolation ended. And whether we were ready or not, the universe had knocked on our door. This time, we would have to decide whether to step inside.